man just now. That blood-sucking freak, that was Vamp.
Terrorists blow a hole in an oil tank barely 20 miles off the shore of Manhattan. Didn't take long for the government to put an oil fence around the whole mess.
The big shell. Hostages, huh?
James Johnson.
The president? It couldn't hit her no matter how hard they tried.
Right now, we need to figure out how to deal with all the bombs.
Right, listen carefully. I fell for it. The proximity trigger. It's too late. Right, you can do it. I died once already. I can't die twice.
Chapter 6. To the Core. On his way off of the heliport, he encounters the cyborg ninja Olga was talking about, and it does indeed look like a beefed up version of Gray Fox. This ninja is, of course, the same Mr. X that called Raiden to warn him about the mines. Just like the same guy that called Snake during Shadow Moses was his cyborg ninja, Gray Fox. The ninja tells Raiden that he is just a messenger from the Lali Lule Lo. Why does that sound familiar?
The Lale Lule Lo!
Apparently, Mr. X was ordered to give Raiden backup, but he won't reveal who the orders came from. Mr. X tells Raiden of the location of a Secret Service agent called Ames, who knows the location of the president. Ames is being held in the B1 floor of the Shell 1 core, along with the other hostages. However, Mr. X doesn't know what Ames looks like, so Raiden will have to use a directional microphone to try and hear the sound of a pacemaker which Ames has. On top of that, the area is heavily fortified. The elevator won't even open if he doesn't look like one of the guards. So Raiden must not only use an enemy soldier uniform given to him by Mr. X, but he must also find an AK rifle, as all the men in the core are given AKs. To make matters worse, there's a retinal scan that he must pass in order to get to the room where the hostages are in. This will take some creativity. Mr. X mentions that Raiden should hurry as the terrorists have a nuke, and they have the president who is holding the black case, in other words, the nuclear button. When Raiden asks why the president would bring the black case to a decontamination plant, Mr. X reveals to him that the big shell is the furthest thing from a decontamination plant. You see, Dead Cell didn't bring a nuke with them. The nuke was already here all along. Apparently the big shell is just one big cover-up for a Metal Gear being housed here. The same Metal Gear we saw in the tanker, Metal Gear Ray. Mr. X tells Raiden that Ames can't tell him more, and just like that, Mr. X is gone. Raiden reports to Campbell everything that just happened, and Campbell tells him that they have nobody like the cyborg ninja in their unit, that being in Foxhound. He also tells him that this is the first time he's heard of a Metal Gear being held in the big shell, but at this point Raiden is starting to doubt him. This sounds familiar again. After receiving some sass from Raiden,
I've told you everything.
Is that everything you know? Or everything I need to know?
Right now, collect as much data as you can.
Are those my orders?
Campbell tells Raiden that he will look into the Metal Gear rumors, but to continue with his mission until then. Raiden finds an AK and heads over to the core of Shell 1 disguised as an enemy soldier. When he makes it inside, Rose calls him with some actual useful information. Apparently Solid Snake's body was definitely examined for DNA testing. Aside from his right arm missing, the test shows that the body definitely belonged to Solid Snake, meaning the leader of the Sons of Liberty is definitely an imposter, making Raiden a bit disappointed as he wanted to meet Solid Snake. Raiden is a fanboy. Once Raiden finds his way into the core, he finds a directional microphone and makes it past the retinal scanner through some creative means.
Retinal pattern recognized.
He then heads over to the room with the hostages, where Raiden finds Ames using the directional microphone and takes off the tape over his mouth in order to talk to him. Ames tells Raiden that he's not Secret Service, but was actually sent in by the Lali Lule Lo. There's that phrase again. The interesting thing is that Ames implies that Raiden was also sent in by this Lalilulelo. In another room, Ocelot is seen being able to both see and hear the conversation, but for some reason he can't hear them anymore once they switch over to talking over codec. Ames tells Raiden that the president is in the first floor of the Shell 2 core. However, when Raiden mentions the hostage that was killed after the freezing of the bombs, Ames, like most people in this game when Raiden says something, seems confused. Ames goes on to explain that the terrorists won't harm the president because the password of the black case is the president's physiological data. Heartbeat, brainwave patterns, blood pressure, etc. This information is constantly monitored and relayed through the presidential's internal nanomachines, and thus it would be impossible for the president to even be coerced into activating nukes because his vitals have to be showing up as normal, meaning the president would have to be pressing the button out of his own free will. Ames also confirms that there is indeed a Metal Gear being developed in the Big Shell and that the black case is being used as the launch key to Metal Gear. However, when Raiden asks why they would hide a Metal Gear in an offshore plant, Ames reveals one of the biggest plot twists in the game. It appears that the oil spill, the tanker incident, the placing of the plant, everything was planned years ago. The Big Shell was always being built for the sole cause of developing this new Metal Gear, which explains why a bunch of important government officials were inspecting an oil cleanup plant. The tour was actually to check on the development of Metal Gear, which is weird since Metal Gear Ray seemed complete 2 years ago. But before Ames could say anything further, he notices the man going to the room Ocelot is in. He says this man is Snake. So Raiden uses his directional microphone to listen in. After Ocelot informs this Snake guy that Fat Man is dead, the man tells him that it only saves them the trouble of killing him themselves. Ocelot tells the man that he will run another background check on Fat Man, just to make sure that he's not working with quote-unquote them. The man mentions an intruder wearing a Foxhound sneaking suit, meaning Raiden, which he found weird as Foxhound was disbanded 4 years back. Why does everyone think Foxhound has been disbanded if Raiden is clearly part of it? He is, right? The man calling himself Snake concludes that this means it can't be Foxhound and is probably actually the Patriots. This is what Ocelot meant when he said he's going to make sure that Fat Man wasn't working with them. He wants to make sure he wasn't working with the Patriots. So the man believes that Raiden works for the Patriots. Ocelot tells the man that the password for the black case has already been made and all they need is a confirmation from the president in an hour. Which is weird because only the president can input the password while being calm in a calm state of mind. After getting confirmation from Ocelot that everything they have planned is falling into place, the man says,
"Only a few more steps to outer heaven."
Olga then walks in and questions Ocelot about the cyborg ninja, accusing him of being untrustworthy, especially after not doing anything for her father while he died. Her father, remember, is Sergei Gerlukovich, the man Ocelot killed. But it seems Olga didn't get the full story of what really happened. Olga continues to say things that implies that she's untrustworthy of Ocelot, like the fact that she read the Shadow Moses report. Ocelot and Olga go back and forth for a while until the man that calls himself Snake puts a stop to it and she walks out of the room. After the man tells Ocelot that he's going to take care of the intruder, that being you, he leaves the room and leaves Ocelot back in charge. Raiden then asks Aim if that man is really Snake, but it seems not even he knows. He just said that either Solid Snake survived or there are two Solid Snakes. Raiden informs Ames of what he heard and Ames confirms that this must mean that the president is working with them. He claims that he probably did it because he was tired of being a puppet. Raiden questioned him about what he meant by puppet. The president is the leader of the free world after all, but Ames just tells him to hurry before they fire the nuke. Raiden was surprised by this as they were nowhere close to the deadline of $30 billion. This is when Ames tells him that firing the nuke was never a threat. It was the objective. He, much like Fat Man, has never even heard of a ransom. However, this wasn't a nuke to kill people. They were going to detonate the nuke high within the atmosphere, which would cause a giant electromagnetic pulse to fry any and all electronics within its range. Raiden notes that if a key mover of the world economy stops functioning, that being Manhattan, it could mean a global depression. However, that's not the aim of the Sons of Liberty. Apparently, their aim is to quote-unquote liberate Manhattan by pulling it offline and turning it into its own republic. After this, their talk was cut short as Ocelot approached. Ames told Ocelot that he just asked to remove the tape over his mouth because he was sick. However, Ocelot told them that he knows what, not who, he is. He said that they knew the president would betray them, and so they sent Ames to keep tabs on the president. They being, of course, the Patriots. As Ocelot gets ready to shoot him, however, Ames begins having a heart attack, much like the ones the Fox Die victims had. Ames dies, and Ocelot demands that Raiden take off his mask and identify himself. One of the guards forces his mask off and confirms that he is not part of their unit. Ocelot puts his gun up to Raiden's head, but as he does this, the cyborg ninja jumps in out of nowhere to cut Ocelot's arm, but Ocelot pulls away before he can do this. That is a nostalgic scenario.
My hand!
Again. The ninja deflects the guards and Ocelot's bullets and tells Raiden to run away. By the way, whenever Lalilulelo is said, we are talking about the Patriots. For some reason, people say Lalilulelo instead of the Patriots. The reason for that is explained, but not until the next game. Chapter 7. The Real Solid Snake. Raiden reports to Campbell about everything that just happened. He doesn't seem too upset about Ames' death and says that at least they now know where the president is. He also tells Raiden that they're still looking into the possibility of Metal Gear being stored in the big shell, but it seems like that might in fact be the case. When Raiden tells Campbell that the nuclear strike was the plan all along, he asks him what he's hiding from him. Can't blame him. His reaction was pretty fake.
Not the $30 billion.
Right. It was a cover-up all along.
Anyways, Campbell tells him that he is, of course, hiding nothing, and that it's not as if he's told all the facts either. This seems familiar again. He tells Raiden to go and find the president as he may have more answers for him, and on his merry way he goes. On his way to Court 2, Pliskin tells Raiden that he will go over the first shell via a helicopter he found on Shell 2. He informs him that he has a pilot with him that can fly the helicopter, and he introduces Raiden to him. It's none other than Otacon.
Otacon?
The name Otacon seemed to trigger something in Raiden's brain, but he didn't say anything. Soon after, Pliskin and Otacon were found by enemy soldiers, so they cut communications. Raiden then immediately calls Campbell again and demands answers about Pliskin, as everything he learns about him keeps going back to Shadow Moses. Rose jumps in and confirms that this Otacon is indeed the same Otacon that survived Shadow Moses, and that afterwards, Ham and his partner Solid Snake went on to form the anti-Metal Gear terrorist organization that was responsible for the tanker incident. However, after everything Raiden has been through, he has come to recognize that Snake and Otacon cannot have been terrorists. He says that to survive in situations like this, you need more than just training. You need courage, ideals, and pure will. Because of this, he's sure that the same person from Shadow Moses could not have turned into a terrorist. However, Campbell reminds him that they found Snake's body in the ocean and even ID'd him through his DNA. This kills Raiden's theory, but then he also claims that this means he can't be the terrorist leader behind all of this. As Raiden continues with his mission, he encounters the man that Ocelot met in the room with the hostages, the man who calls himself Snake. He calls Raiden a messenger from the Patriots. He tells him that he's not just the boss of Sons of Liberty, but he's also the boss to surpass Big Boss himself.
Solid Snake!
But right in the nick of time,
No! That is not Solid Snake!
Pliskin arrives in the helicopter and yells out that this man is not Solid Snake. When the fake Snake calls Pliskin his brother, Pliskin tells him to save it and that he is not his brother. the man steps out of the shadows, saying that he hopes he hasn't forgotten him, referring to Pliskin as Snake. Yes! In case anyone was actually questioning it, Pliskin is in all actuality Solid Snake. The one, the only. The same one from the tanker incident and Shadow Moses. It was all a disguise. But why? And who is this other brother? The plot thickens. This man seems to look exactly like Snake but with white hair, resembling Big Boss much more than Snake ever did. When Snake demands that this man stop impersonating him, probably referring to either Liquid or Big Boss, the man tells him that he is a whole different game from Liquid. Finally, we get to see this man's codename, Solidus Snake. I don't get it either. Snake and Solidus engage in a small battle where Solidus ends up falling into the ocean. However, he's brought up by a Harrier jet piloted by Vamp. At this point, Snake, knowing that a helicopter stands no chance against a Harrier jet, goes, "Oh hell no!" As the Harrier goes around the big shell, Snake hands Raiden a Stinger missile launcher and tells him that he has to shoot the Harrier as they can't stand up to it inside the civilian chopper. This commences our next boss battle, during which Solidus causes some heavy damage to the bridge between struts D and G, and some damage to the struts themselves. After a long fight, Raiden manages to shoot down the Harrier, but as it crashes into the ocean, a Metal Gear Ray model jumps out of the ocean and catches the jet. Weirdly enough, this Metal Gear seems to be standing very high up, considering that they're in the middle of the ocean. Anyways, Raiden is shocked that it's already active, and Ray shoots 2 clusters of bombs in the air, which damage the helicopter Snake is in, and further damages multiple parts of the big shell. While Otacon lands the chopper, Solidus is seen inside the jet with a damaged and bleeding eye. Meanwhile, Vamp Jesus-is his way to the big shell by running across water and up a completely vertical part of the big shell. Okay, Raiden goes back into the water along with the jet and Solidus, and Snake calls Raiden over the codec. After making sure that they were all okay, Solid Snake confirms Raiden's questions that he is Solid Snake. Raiden asks Solid Snake what it is that keeps him fighting, why it is that he came back to the battlefield, because if he had a choice, Raiden would be out of there in a second. As an answer, Snake quotes his best friend, Gray Fox.
There's something my best friend said to me once. What? We're not tools of the government or anyone else. Fighting was the only thing.
The only thing I was good at. But at least I always fought for what I believed in. Snake. Farewell.
Raiden then asks him about the DNA results in the body they found, which confirmed that Snake was dead. Apparently, the body they tested was Liquid's body, who, as you remember, was Snake's genetic clone. They stole his body from an organization and used it as a cover for their own protection. After Raiden pressed the topic, Snake admits to Raiden that although they are indeed an NGO and their cause is the eradication of Metal Gears, their actions are closer to terrorism than they are of activism. However, they received word that the Sons of Liberty were planning on taking over the big shell and the new Metal Gear being developed there. Also, it seems that the sister Otacon mentioned in the beginning of the game is being held hostage in the big shell as well. So both Raiden and Snake are here for their own reasons. Raiden then contacts Campbell and tells him that Metal Gear is active. Campbell tells him that he can still stop the launch if they rescue the president. Rose makes a very good observation and says that the attackers now seemed as if they had no more use for the big shell. When Raiden mentions to Campbell that Pliskin was Snake all along, Campbell is reluctant to believe it and tells Raiden not to let his guard down around him, as they were never part of the quote-unquote simulation and are thus an unknown factor. Raiden responds by telling him that he doesn't understand why he's acting like that, since he read the book In the Darkness of Shadow Moses and read all about how Snake and Campbell fought on the same side. Campbell then very angrily tells Raiden,
I don't give a damn what that piece of trash said. Do you get me?
before hanging up. At some point in the way to the president, Rose calls Jack and they begin talking about him, which is apparently his least favorite topic. This whole soap opera of a conversation is all about how Raiden has never talked about himself or his past to Rose at any point during their relationship, and that she finds it weird that she doesn't know anything about her boyfriend's past. So he promises he will talk about his past when he gets back. Chapter 8. To the President. While Raiden is in court too, he overhears a call between Solidus and Olga. After Solidus informs her that Snake is in the big shell, she tells him that she's been waiting to kill him for 2 years for the killing of her dad. Again, doesn't seem like she got the full story. Ready for more oddly similar situations? Olga then activates electrical panels on the floor in the hallway leading to the president's room before leaving the Core 2 building. How do we disable it? By finding a remote control missile launcher in the other floor of the building and flying it through some vents to destroy the circuit board of the floor's electric panels. When Raiden reaches the president, he seems to have been expecting him, telling him that the suit Raiden was wearing isn't exactly standard military issue. The president seems confused when Raiden asks him if he's okay, as he thought Raiden was sent in to kill him. The president tells Raiden that he is prepared to face his punishment for his betrayal. Now Raiden is confused. But when he tells the president that he's part of Foxhound, the president seems to have come to some realizations, saying that things are starting to make sense. Raiden asks the president if he's working with the terrorists, and President Johnson informs him that if he would have asked him 2 hours ago, he would have said yes. But at this point, in the present time, he has changed his mind. That's why they're keeping him locked up. Apparently, he wanted power, while they just wanted destruction. At this point, the Sons of Liberty are just keeping him alive for his vitals so that they can confirm the input. Raiden, however, seems confused. He asks him why he stooped to terrorism. Even if he wanted total power, he was the President of the United States. He already has tremendous power. However, President Johnson tells him that he's just a figurehead and that the real power is with the Patriots. Remember, although we have already heard a little bit about the Patriots because of tapes from Metal Gear Solid 5, this is the first time the Patriots are ever mentioned to people that bought the game in release order. Johnson tells him that the Patriots are the truth behind the country and that almost nobody has any knowledge of their existence. The Patriots control everything from politics to money, military, and even who will be elected president. Everything Johnson has done in his presidency has all been done under the Patriots' instructions. Stories about things being passed by Congress or other political bodies are all just cover stories to keep the public happy. The Patriots rule the country. Unfortunately, nobody knows who the Patriots are other than the fact that they are a group of 12 men, also known as the Wise Men's Committee. Johnson became the president by pledging loyalty to them, but it seemed that he was way over his head. President Johnson hoped to climb his way up to their level with Solidus' help. However, Solidus wanted to challenge the Patriots to take them down. But destroying the Patriots would cause a huge power vacuum that would be up for grabs. This would cause global chaos. Johnson wanted to avoid this and told Solidus, but Solidus told him that pawns can never become players. When Raiden asks Johnson who Solidus is, he reveals that Solidus is George Sears, the former president. How did Raiden not know what the former president of the United States looks like? According to Johnson, Solidus was a survivor of the Les Enfants Terribles project. He was the most well-balanced of all the clones, and thus, instead of having all of his recessive or all his dominant genes, Solidus was a perfect clone of Big Boss. With that being so, the Patriots saw fit to entrust Solidus with the presidency. However, he fell out of grace from the Patriots when he acted on his own and caused the Shadow Moses incident. The creation of Rex and the advanced nuclear warhead that were making Shadow Moses was not in the Patriots' plan. Not only that, but he directly caused the Foxhound takeover of Shadow Moses by sending an Ocelot to provoke Liquid. As a result of Shadow Moses, he obtained Rex and the data on the advanced warhead. However, the incident ended up exposing not only Rex to the public, but the existence of the Genome Army, something the Patriots were not too happy with. Solidus was then removed from the position of the president and was replaced with Johnson. Although they made a cover-up saying that he resigned, the Patriots almost had the cover-up complete. The next stage was to assassinate Solidus and blame it on his health failing him. However, before this could happen, Solidus went underground with the help of Ocelot. While he waited for his opportunity to arise, he gained control of Dead Cell and won over the trust of the Gerlukovich army. This opportunity came in the shape of a new Metal Gear project. Solidus planned to take control of this new Metal Gear and with it wage war on the Patriots. However, it's not Ray that he's after. Ray's just a bonus. As Johnson mentions, Ray was hijacked from the Marines 2 years prior. It's not exactly new. This is why they keep referencing to the new Metal Gear project as new, and why they had a tour to check on its development even though it was already finished 2 years back. Because Metal Gear Ray and the new Metal Gear are not the same. The new Metal Gear is called Arsenal Gear, and it's not inside the big shell, it is the big shell. To be more precise, it's beneath it. The whole big shell facility was built as a camouflage for Arsenal Gear on which the big shell was built on. The big shell doesn't actually reach the bottom of the ocean. Its foundation is Arsenal Gear. The way to it is through the B2 floor on Shell 1 core. Were you wondering how Solidus was going to take on an Illuminati-like group with just one robot? Well, now it all makes sense. It's not just one robot, it's not just Ray. It's a giant Metal Gear called Arsenal Gear. You see, Arsenal Gears differs from other Metal Gears because it's not just a walking tank. It's a giant, impregnable swimming fortress carrying thousands of missiles, including nuclear warheads. Not only that, but the fortress itself is protected by a horde of Metal Gear Rays. So, anti-Metal Gears are protecting a Metal Gear. If all of this isn't enough, Arsenal Gear has full access to the US's military tactical network, so it has full control of the US's armed forces and nuclear missiles. So Arsenal Gear was built to be the core of our country. It's not just a weapon, however. It's a means to preserve the world as it is with a new form of absolute control. With this fortress, the Patriots will establish their role as the country's true rulers. Johnson explains that the Patriots feel threatened by the oncoming flow of mass digital information in the current digital age. For this, they have been working on a system in Arsenal Gear to digitally manage the flow of information. With this, they can shape the truth as they see fit by controlling what information gets censored and what doesn't, what information gets slightly altered and what doesn't. This system is called GW and will be Arsenal Gear's final touch once it's been fully integrated into it. This is how Johnson was planning on joining the ranks with the Patriots. He wanted to seize GW and use it as a bargaining chip. Solidus, however, chose rebellion. This is also why Solidus wants to liberate Manhattan by frying all of its electronics. And taking Manhattan off of the grid, he also releases it from the control of these invasive systems. In doing so, the Patriots will not be able to monitor his moves. While it's not identical to Big Boss's dream, it is Solidus' own version of Outer Heaven. President Johnson tells Raiden that his inputting of the password in the black case was not for Ray, but for Arsenal Gear, and soon GW will start making connections with external systems, making Arsenal Gear fully operational. Johnson tells Raiden that his role is to stop them before that happens. He tells him to find the system programmer for Arsenal Gear, Emma Emmerich. That's right, Otacon's sister. She's being held in level B1 of Core 2, which just happens to also be partially flooded thanks to Fat Man bombs.